Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We will be doing a retrospective on our game Listen, Don't Speak. It's a game that we had for the Games for Blind Gamers 4 Game Jam on itch.io, where our objective was to build a game for low sight individuals to essentially play a fun, kind of spooky game. With me, as always, is Frenchie. Hi, Frenchie.
Hello, hello. I'm here again.
So this game, we are quickly catching up to all of our backlog of games that we've created in the past here. This game was this year, right?
Yes, earlier this year, I believe.
Early, February 1st, I believe, was submitted.
Yeah. And I think I just stumbled into it because I was just looking at the catalogs of game jams, and I messaged you. Oh, this one looks interesting. It's different from the ones we've joined so far.
Let's talk about Listen, Don't Speak and the game itself.
For our concept in Listen, Don't Speak, like Connor mentioned earlier, we opted for a horror themed, and we decided that because since it is a low visibility game, it would be very sound based, and as as a concept, we thought that that's a really good fit for horror. So in general, just to do a quick overview on what the game is ideally about, you as the player character are plopped into like a very dark area, and then in front of you you'll be seeing a poster, like it's hunting season if I'm remembering correctly. That's how we set it up, and then you basically don't see anything, and the only thing you have are sound cues. So you hear your footsteps, and if you want to look around, we also set up a button. If you click that, it's kind of like a sonar. So you'll know that you're a number of steps away from a tree, or what did we call it? Did we call it a safe zone, Connor?
So
Or
we didn't really have we have hidden bushes, so you can hide in
right?
bushes, and then
Yeah.
you had trees that if you walked into would hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had, because when you get hurt, you speak. Anytime there is
Yeah.
speaking, it will trigger the enemies to move faster.
Right. So that was an additional concept for the game. So you had to balance out being sneaking around and making sure that the enemies don't hear you. But for you to figure out where to go, you'd have to do that a moment of speaking that will get the enemies closer to you as well. And then in general, we had a bit of fun with the outline in this one because instead of just going from okay, starting point to safe zone, we also wanted to add a bit of mystery, so we do have some branching paths in the game. And yeah, in general, it's just stay away from the enemies, find the safe zone, see if you can find the. We had how many endings do we have? Two or three, I think.
We have three different endings. I don't know if you remember early in the ideation phase there. I
Mm-hmm.
I had just encountered an ARG called "The Sun Vanished," I believe. There was
Right.
a very interesting deep dive YouTube video, which I'm not sure who I watched. There's lots of YouTubers talking about the ARG and the complete
Yeah.
timeline. But essentially, watching that timeline, seeing how that ARG worked, it definitely spurred some interest because with the sun being
Mm-hmm.
out and it being very dark and having these essentially entities with light, I
Yeah.
think the light drove people crazy.
Right. I
It
think the
definitely
light, yeah, something it attracted people to the light. Then if you got caught, either you'd get converted or you'd
yes,
die. It's one of
yes.
those. Yeah.
So we had talked about that early on because you had been also aware of that ARG, and I
Mm,
think that's like a 2018 Twitter thing.
I
But
think so. Yeah. Back when it was still
very
Twitter.
interesting. Yeah, so that kind of spurred on that kind of look. And then yes, we essentially did a pinging system for
Yeah.
for people and things and monsters, whatever the case may be. And then we had a very basic three different endings in case anybody were to like really play around with it or anything like that. So with that side of things, then too, this was our very first 3D game. So we did it differently this time. We almost always work in the 2D world. We wanted to challenge ourselves and go into the 3D side of things. With that, for me, the challenges were just, an extra vector, understanding a bit on how to use meshes and everything like that too. But a lot of my challenges were like, no, you can't use player 2D. No, you can't use texture 2D. You have to use the 3D. That's what's in the name. But what about yourself,
Yeah.
Frenchie? Because I know you ended up making a lot of the models.
Right. Yeah. So for me, I do have some basic familiarity with Blender, so I was able to do some of the background assets, the simple ones, basically the static ones. Like you'll see once we have some of the footage up, we have a starting point with the poster. We have some assets like the rocks and things like that. So the simple ones like that, I was able to do on my own. But in terms of the more complex things like the monster model, that one is a stock asset, and we'll link it in the description if anyone's interested in using it for their own games. But since my familiarity with 3D modeling is more on the static side, I opted to, especially since we did have a limited time, it was more efficient to just grab an existing model that was already rigged. Because if I knew that if I tried to figure that out during the game jam, it'll just take up more time. But yeah, it's a balance of like editing existing assets, making some of our own custom ones, and taking advantage of the stuff that's already available online.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I want to get into some of the weeds on this here. So,
sure.
apologies if it gets too intense, but I know watching a few other devlogs and things like that, the weeds is what makes it interesting. So,
Agreed,
I'll
agreed.
kind of get into a few things that I found was very exciting for me to kind of play around with, and anyone in the comments can tell me how badly optimized it was. But in early iterations of this, you had generated, I think, two or three trees there, Frenchie. I don't know if you had found them
Yeah.
online or whatever the case was.
It was a mix for sure. I remember finding default trees online, but I also did edit them because we didn't need them to be really detailed. I just yeah. So I resized them, removed a couple of branches and things like that. Basically, in terms of modeling, I simplified them for what we needed.
And then early on too, because this is our first 3D game, I was very adamant about no. We need to keep this as low texture as possible. A, we
Yeah.
want to play it on a web browser, and B, we want to make sure that things don't look out of place or like slapped together, even though it's a game
Yeah.
jam. Like who cares, right?
Yeah.
And then B, it gave an interesting style. So
Yeah.
essentially, any object that existed in the world was just white, and then with no light, everything was dark. So as soon as you
Yeah.
approach something, you would see it and it would turn white. And once again, with the low vision players, we were kind of hoping that that could. We were not building it for blind players. I know the game jam itself was saying blind, but it was also for low light games as well, which we'll talk about later. But essentially,
Yeah.
having that high contrast of it's either black or white.
Yeah. We were kind of going more with low visibility versus zero
Yes.
visibility. Yeah.
And then we also included things like the pinging structure, like you talked about, which I'll get into a bit more details. But I really loved it because essentially, when you were to try to scan or ping into the darkness, if one of the ray lines catches an object and you say that, it will actually change its texture. So I'll show up here in the just some basic code here, but essentially when I'm pinging a thing, I get the object and then I check to see if that mesh and the material, sorry, the 3D material, if it's a global material or if there's a local material. So
Right.
I generate on start all the trees in the game. This is
Right.
probably poor design, but I generate all the trees in the game, and then I have a big radius around the player that's connected to the player. And when an object enters that radius, it detects, oh, I've entered the radius. I then go from hidden to shown. Now, early dev was like the tree models and everything like that. It worked perfect. I had, I think, 10,000 trees. 10,000 trees, all visible all at once. So if you had
Right.
light on, it was actually a very interesting forest. But when it came to our hiding bushes, and I know there was a few iterations that we went back and forth on,
Yeah, yeah.
as soon as I load one hiding bush, it would slow down my PC to a crawl versus
Right.
the 10,000 trees.
Yeah, I remember we definitely got stuck on that because I remember trying different renders of the bush. I went from something that looks more like a traditional like leafy bush to something that's more poly, more of a low poly style.
Yeah.
And then I had to make sure that that wouldn't be confused for the rocks either. So it had to be
Yes.
low poly, but not too low poly that it was you could confuse it. So
It
yeah,
it looks like a kind of a, you'll see it on the screen here, like a block. Looks like almost like a rock with spaces in between.
yeah,
But it does look like a bush. And then we put a little
yeah,
light inside them. So
yeah.
an added benefit of that was I could only get about 100 hiding spots on the screen before like computer slowdown to crawl versus the 10,000 trees. So putting the light in those two made it very interesting because as you approached, trees would be completely dark, but then you would have these little orange glowing spots of safety to hide in. Becomes much more visible. It
Yeah.
would still be pingable as well. So, anyways, we have this giant radius around the player, and as you move, it will show these trees. If you move away from them, the trees just go dot hide, and you can't see the trees anymore. Just trying to save any semblance of processing power if possible.
Yeah.
It probably would have been better to just actually completely remove them from the scene, but this is a game jam. We got to go quick.
Yeah.
That
Like
seemed
all
to
of our
have done the
comments
trick.
now are all comments we have now of how to improve is all hindsight. Obviously,
Yeah.
at the time we were just thinking on the spot.
Yeah. So going back then to this global and local material, I found that it looked really cool, and you'll see the effects here, where when you ping, it goes quickly to white wherever it is. It could be 30 steps away. It'll go white, and then it will slowly fade, and that was very cool, and I love that effect. And it was working great until then I spawned all the trees. And when I ping one tree, you get them all
Right.
because I was affecting a global material of that tree. And what I found too is that the if I were to spawn all 10,000 trees but made them a local instance of each. So instead of 10,000 of one scene, it's 10,000 of 10,000. Like my computer would melt.
Right.
So what I did was every time I pinged, I checked to see if there was a local material. If there was a local material, that's how I would use to to deal with the emission of the. Essentially, you would add energy to that material so that it would give off light. So essentially, I wasn't actually giving it color, but I was giving it light energy so that users could see it and then remove that light so it would dim down. I would then go to the local material, duplicate the global and then set it as a local unique to that instance. So players wouldn't generally ping every tree, but I would never clear it. So
Right.
you could very well slowly melt down your computer if you went around and pinged every tree. But it was
Right.
a really easy way to kind of get around the limitations of a web browser game. And, users are going to play for what? If we were lucky, 15 minutes. You're not
Yeah.
going to hit too many local trees that way.
Yeah. Especially since the idea is to get to the safe zone
Yes.
immediately. So yeah. And
Yeah.
with the hinting that there's more than one ending, that's where we kind of hope to extend the playtime a bit.
RNG was very basic, so everything was very basic in this game. But RNG, essentially, I would always plant the tree right in front of it. There was no RNG in there with the wanted sign. Once again, very poor setup here was that tree, that specific tree, all those trees had the wanted sign, but only one tree, when it's enabled true, has it visible.
Has it visible?
So once again, just a waste of resources just being thrown onto, because out of 10,000 trees, we only had 3 types of trees. And I think I had it just like, 1/3 of that could be that one type of tree. So, that's a good couple thousand trees that had a wanted sign that, though
wasn't visible.
invisible, didn't need to
Yeah.
be there. So anyways, we do what we can, and then when I spawned the trees, I just made sure that none of the trees were within a certain radius of the player. So that way you wouldn't spawn in a tree, because that was a problem in the early builds, is that the odd time you would spawn in a tree.
Yeah.
With the hiding mechanic too, there was no hitboxes in the bushes, so you could walk through those easily. For trees, if you hit them, you get hurt. And then when you hide,
you
I
make a
literally
sound.
just rip the controller away from the character and squish them
Right.
into the ground, and just have them sit there.
Right.
Sorry, you were saying something there?
Oh, I was saying that if you hit the tree, you'd also, we mentioned it before, you'd also make a sound, and that will alert the enemy to your location.
Yeah, and the enemy AI, very simple. It doesn't really do like a search and find. The enemy knows where you are, and it will go in a straight line to you. If the enemy gets stuck on a tree, I was like, what's the easiest way? Is it to navigate around the tree and to do A-pathing? And I'm like, that doesn't seem like a great way. But what if the enemy is rubbing up against the same object for more than a second or two? Let's
Right.
just despawn the tree. So essentially it was just chopping down trees to get to you in a straight line.
Yeah.
And then really it would kind of get closer and closer to you, but you can kind of outrun it as long as you don't hit a tree. If you hit a tree, then it's going to speed up for a few seconds and get to you.
Yeah. Oh, right. I do remember that you added that mechanic where if you make a sound, just to add a bit more tension,
Yes.
the enemy gets a bit more speed until you
Yes.
like either hide or.
So-
How long did you set up the speed boost for when you make a sound?
So talking speed is 1. Talking boost time is 2.5 seconds.
There.
So for 2.5 seconds, when there's been voices, once that talking is done, after 2.5 seconds, it goes back down to the normal speed.
Yeah. So the idea there was also to add tension if you were
Yeah.
being chased, because either you'd ping and it'd get faster, or you'd get hit and it'd get faster. So the idea was to get to either the safe zone or find a hiding spot. Yeah.
So the rough game idea mechanic is you are a silent listen, don't speak. You are trying to be quiet, moving through the forest. By pinging, every time you ping, the character voices out the distance and what they see and pings that tree. And because by doing that, you're speaking, I created a function in which essentially everything gets passed through this kind of voice box. So the enemy knows anytime you are saying anything, they can speed up at that time. So essentially, you have these tools at your disposal to make it easier to navigate. But if you use those, the enemy will speed up. Or if you fail to miss a tree, the enemy will speed up.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out all right. It's very
Yeah.
basic. And when you're hiding, I do pick a random direction away from the player. And then I do have it so that they are always moving forward so that they're actually rotating to like curve away from you. But it is very much like there's no stop and sniff. There is no alien. What's the game? Is it the very good AI with the alien handling management system?
Oh, the one that learns. I think it's Alien. Yeah.
Is it just Alien?
I think it's just
Yeah.
Alien.
So
Yeah.
there's nothing like Alien
Yeah.
in
It
terms
doesn't
of
learn from
logic.
how you. Yeah. It doesn't learn from how you're hiding or running away.
No,
It'll just do
no.
what it's made. It'll
You
just
are
chase
invincible.
if it can see
You are invincible. in there. So you literally don't have a hitbox or anything like that while hiding.
For the hiding spot, we did have that one tester who was able to get the enemy stuck on the hiding spot.
Yes.
Like there was a split second where it would just be hovering. So when you'd get out of the hiding spot, it'll get you. So that was something we had to adjust. And I think that's why you added if you hide, it'll automatically go away, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at one build too, there was the odd time where the enemy would still be like, no, I know where you are. I'm going to get you.
Right.
So
Right,
then,
yeah.
it would just kind of keep rubbing up against you until you left the hiding
Yeah.
spot, of course, killing you
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
So we did do 3D sound for that spot, though. So the monster does have 3D sound. And if I remember, the monster's 3D sound is just, I took some nature sounds. I think you had found some nature sounds there. And then I just
we
kind
had
of,
a library, yeah.
yeah. And I just kind of increased the bass and made it echoey so that when you were coming up, it was like river or cave or something like that with wind. So it ended up becoming a much more haunting
Sound
creature
effect.
noise.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. Like it did, because we also made it that you wouldn't always hear it, only when it was a certain distance from you. Yeah.
Yeah, so we used the 3D sound to actually work. Not that we would expect anyone to use headphones while playing a game jam game.
Yeah.
Not that it would give you a lot of info because there was a giant red beam of light, so you always kind of knew where it was.
Yeah. But again, like to keep with the low visibility theme, we still wanted to add those little touches.
So this one was the most interesting audio recording session I had, because once we started to make clear what we needed to do, so we wanted the player to essentially read out loud or say out loud what was happening in the environment. So that meant I needed to create something that I could say how many steps away it was, and everything like that. So it became a very interesting challenge for me. And I don't know if, Frenchie, you had to deal with a lot of my struggles or it just kind of came together. But I'll go into a little detail on that.
Good.
So early on, I was just like, I could easily create an array of the different texts. So like, what is that? Oh no, what is it? I don't know what it is. It's chasing me. I could put all of those text in an array, and I could do a secondary array with all the audio files themselves. So essentially, if I pick a random number for a range, let's say I pull a 3, I have the text and I have the audio. Now, in the future, I would definitely be putting that into a dictionary, right? So that I can choose a random number or a random speech, and then those values are together and they are tied together, which makes it easier for editing. But once again, we got to be quick. And I wasn't sure if I had enough time to do all the recording for the voices or not in the short time.
Yeah.
So I did the text first, and then I did the voice after. And that's why we stuck to arrays.
Yeah.
And then I had to do the calculations. So
For the
I
steps,
ended
right?
up, yes, steps. So I ended up figuring out that I could calculate the distance that I travel on the footstep audio sound that I could play. So that meant, unless you were, of course, abusing tapping WASD or anything like that, I would know how many step sounds I would play before I hit that tree. And I would just round down. So if it was 2.2 steps, I would say 2 steps.
Right.
Which ended up being really cool because you could 100%, if you just pressed up and you're like, oh no, there's a tree in 3 steps. 1, 2,
and you can
3,
hear,
ugh.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So the idea is, once again, if you were a blind gamer or anything like that, if you scanned, you could easily, hear that, count the steps, and then, move accordingly.
Yeah. And we made sure to use footstep sound effects that were pretty clear. Like, even if it was textured, you could tell that it was just one step versus like a more ruffled nature footstep sound. Yeah.
And then, because I don't want it to be boring, all my scans, I had a certain range. So if it was under a step, I would just say, I can see a tree right in front of me.
Right.
But if it was, 10 steps or less, then I would say something else, right? It's about this much.
I think you said you recorded some that said, oh, there's a tree a couple of steps away. And then you also have certain numbers, depending on how close it was.
Yeah, so if it's greater than 10, it's I think I see. So I just kept adding that in, and then I had to I had to kind of remember the connotation of which I say those things, because then I had a separate recording of me counting 1, 2, 3. So I could mix them all together so it doesn't sound like, there's something missing.
Like you're splicing it, just splicing it.
It is. Everything is spliced.
Yeah.
So I never said a number other than the I see a tree right in front of me, or I see a hiding spot right in front of me.
Right.
Nothing is spliced. I was thinking about splicing tree and hiding spot as well.
Yeah.
But it was like, that's more effort than the need. But I think that was very interesting. It was a fun challenge. Last thing to talk about with audio, just a bit more audio on this one because we didn't want to rely on visuals, was the monster sounds. I had a lot of fun with those. It was, once again, it's just me going, rah, 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 and then cranking up some knobs. That's all. Hello? Is anyone out there? Oh God, what was that?
But it's effective. Like, you do again, we use the 3D sound, so it is effective to when you play it. Because I did test it with headphones. It is effective to hear it like coming from a certain direction. And
and then just the last on that is the line reads are very cheesy. They are literally my first take, and
it's fine.
it's if I had more time, I would probably definitely re-record them. But honestly, the cheesy vibe. It takes away a bit of the scare factor, which could be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And again, not that game jam games don't have to be super refined, because we do also spend a lot of time refining our games for game jams, but uh, the expectations for a short time isn't it tends to not be too high, so we try not to put that much pressure on ourselves with like making it a completely polished game in the time we're
yeah.
given.
Yeah, and
And like you said,
like
it's fun. Like having some cheesy lines is also fun to start it off, to balance out the horror-esque theme.
and just on that front too, it always helps too to have just keep in mind how much time you have, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't able to take time off to work on the game jam. It was literally just in like the hours I had. So,
Right.
do what you can. You don't have to have
Yeah.
a fine polished piece. In fact, look at what we've
Exactly.
got here.
Yeah.
It's janky in some ways, but I kind of, I would love to come back to this world, to be honest. I
Yeah, yeah.
love the black and white.
Yeah. And we do have, when we were working on it, we did end up kind of ideating not entirely a story, but a situation around it, because we wanted the game over to be a bit more, instead of just game over, a typical game over screen. We had an idea of, if you succeed or if you failed, it was the usual, oh, the we started with the monster caught you or something like that. But then we also had a line where the trees lied to you or something like that. So that's when we kind of started building kind of like a world around the idea of the game jam. So I'm not sure how well it translated, because again, I'm not sure how long people would have played it. But like you said, I would love to revisit the world and the lore and kind of refine like the story behind it. Yeah.
Well, we will definitely talk shortly about reception and everything like that. But
Yeah.
I do want to touch base on the endings and
Yeah.
the safe zones, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you had built kind of these lovely little safe zone vignettes is essentially what we wanted to create. So
Yeah.
what we did was we just put a giant spotlight over top of them. I would essentially, after X amount of distance somebody has traveled, I would spawn it directly in front of them. So if you constantly kept spinning in circles, you'd probably lose it, but it would never despawn unless you walked into it and cleared it. So then that way there was always this kind of white orb in the distance that you would
Yeah.
see. And once again, because the trees would despawn, you would always, very rarely would you ever come to a scenario where all the trees would line up in such a way that you couldn't see the big glowing white spot.
Yeah.
The only no-goes I had was if you somehow walked to the end of the map, which you could do, but it was an extremely large map. So
Yeah.
in order to get to the three different endings is essentially to skip the first one, skip
Yeah.
the second one, and then that third one would be the good ending. The second one would
Yeah.
get you 2 vignettes, but the first one would give you 3. And both
Yeah.
those two are definitely negative endings.
I do remember we also had the bad ending, but it was also comedy, where we literally put a cabin in the woods, and then we had the
Yes.
game over screen say something like, "Did you really think it was that easy?" or something like that, just to play on the cabin in the woods trope. So I like those as well. Yeah,
Yes.
we went theatrical with the script for this one.
Yes. Yes, no, that was very good.
Yeah.
So just on the part of loading it, it was just very much I just popped it into existence, and then with the light emission, I just tweened it so that it would slowly grow in light, and it gave a cool effect as well. So it was very much of like things were just kind of coming into view,
Right.
and we kept color in those, which I thought was important to just make that distinction. The only difference is the campground bad. So this is the first pathway you could take. We actually had that where it didn't despawn as soon as you kind of got into it and cleared the message,
Right.
where you could sit in that campground forever, but as soon as you left, the hungry eyes, and you'd have multiple
Yeah.
enemies chasing you, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
All right. What I'll show here too in the Godot project, once again, just to showcase how cobbled together some of the stuff is, all the ending scenes, all the dialogue screens in which we take control away from the player, it's just one scene that we bring up and hide away. So you'll see here we have all the texts. So I'm not even programmatically building out these texts. I'm just like, okay, well, if you want to see tree
Ending
clearing,
1, ending 2.
you just
Yeah.
show the visibility, you make the edits you need, and then you hide that. It just made it a lot easier to kind of quickly parse through it, and I think too for yourself, Frenchie, to be able to like play around with it too as you see fit. So that's the endings and everything like that. We have audio. We had high contrast gameplay. The font wasn't too hard to read, but there's definitely a few things after hearing feedback and everything like that that I definitely would want to do differently in the future.
Yeah.
But do you want to kind of kick us off on the feedbacks?
I think yeah, sure. So we mentioned it a couple of times throughout the video where we were working on the idea of low visibility. But I think there was a misalignment with the expectations because based on the feedback we got, the expectations were make a game for absolutely zero visibility. So if you compare what we at least how we executed our game versus some of the others in the game jam, you really had games that would tell you like if you click left you're now facing this, so similar to what we did with the pinging, but really more of like a consistent feedback. So sorry, of consistent yeah, feedback from the game. So in terms of what the players were telling us, yeah, we did take those into note. They were even pretty kind with telling us, oh, if you want to submit another one, that's okay. And both Connor and I were thinking that's just creating a brand new game. I think we're okay with just uh, with submitting this one and just acknowledging that okay, there was just a bit of misunderstanding with what was being expected versus what we eventually made. But yeah, at the end of the day, you can most likely tell throughout the video we really did enjoy making this game, even if we, even with that slight misunderstanding with the directive. Yeah,
Yeah, so we were definitely, and it's fair, we were definitely
yeah,
hit hard in the rankings and everything like that too. So we got out of 34 entries, we were near the bottom. Fun gameplay, 34. So like
yeah,
the last overall 33rd, so second
yeah.
last. Creativity 30th and sound design 29. So we were fair enough if expecting a completely for blind gamers as in the title of the game
Yeah,
jam.
yeah,
We get it. There's definitely a lot
yeah.
of things that we learned there too. I did not, just because of how the time was so tight, was not able to test with screen readers either. So we seem to have caused a bit of issues for some screen readers. So that was definitely a problem as well. But we learned a few things, and then we
Yeah,
played with a medium we hadn't ever played with before. And you
yeah,
know what? It's okay to be the 34th out of the 34th, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
somebody's got to be there. But we
yeah.
we produced a 3D game in what,
Exactly.
a matter of a month?
I think so. Or how long was it? I think at the most
So,
it might have been. Yeah, it wasn't. It
and
wasn't a short game jam, but definitely for both of us, we were both busy at the time. So
yeah.
yeah, for the amount of time we were able to dedicate to it, I'm pretty proud of what we were able to do.
Yeah, and versus some other games that we definitely tried playing, it's always a very different experience, especially
Yeah,
when there's no visuals.
yeah,
I'm pretty proud with what we were able to make in the time
yeah.
we did. So
And like we mentioned, if we do have the time in the future, I would love to revisit this game and this
yes,
world and see how we would kind of refine and improve it.
I know mascot horror is on the outs. At least the interest has definitely waned. But
Yeah.
we could definitely, I don't know, turn this into something pretty easily, I think.
Yeah. And I
So,
think on my end, in terms of design and mechanics, I would love to see if we could get away with not having that visible of a monster. Because for our viewers, if you see my avatar, you might not be surprised that I'm very into horror. And I
yeah.
feel like some of the most effective horror movies or horror media is when you actually barely see the monster. So I feel like that's something we could explore should we eventually
A
revisit
weird
this.
Thomas the Tank Engine spider leg
Yeah.
is all
Yeah.
you need to be. And like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah. 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 That's like a
So,
hint of it. Because I,
just a hint.
especially
You
when
don't
you
need to.
look at,
Once you see the full train, you're like, okay,
yeah.
this is different. But if you
Yeah.
just see
Once you know
that
what you're
leg,
expecting.
yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
then you're like, ooh, I don't like this. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like let the imagination scare the player more than what
yeah,
than the model itself. Yeah.
yeah. So if ever we wanted to do like a Unity asset flip, I'd love to be in this world,
Right.
with this kind of level of scare. But
Yeah.
I think making their own stuff there and the black and white, I really did love the aesthetics on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. With that side, is there anything else you want to talk about for this?
I think for this one, I appreciated that I had to revisit Blender because it had been a while since I've touched it since like Connor, I've worked with mostly 2D in terms of just preference and also general demand for some projects and things like that. A lot of it was 2D illustrations, concept art, and design. So it was nice to be able to revisit 3D and kind of like figure out what I need to brush up on again. And yeah, eventually I would want to get a bit more practice on 3D modeling and rigging custom characters because if we do decide to make more game jams or just our own games with 3D, there's definitely value in having a more signature style rather than even if there are so much amazing assets out there, if we could like have a more custom design, it would help like bring everything together.
Or even with our current games that we're working on right now is a lot of the times even the 2D worlds have 3D assets inside them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely definitely
That's a
something
sneak
to
peek
think
for our
about.
next video.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So with that side, that is our submission for Games for Blind Gamers 4. Listen, don't speak. We had a lot of fun with this one. I hope this kind of I hope that was interesting for everyone here. And honestly, if people want to get more into the weeds, we can definitely talk more into the weeds there too.
Yeah, just leave a comment with your questions and things like that. And if we get enough throughout the whole like from the videos we've uploaded so far, maybe we can do like a dedicated video answering questions or reading comments and things like that.
So with that said, everything and all, follow us on Lonely Golem Games at itch.io. Please give us a follow there. We will be hopefully announcing some stuff here in relatively soon with our loop track racer. working title there, but we're coming along with it. It's looking pretty
Yeah,
good so far.
yeah. Every time
Well,
we make something new for it, and again, we'll go into detail about this in the next video. So we're definitely teasing on
yeah.
our upcoming project. But every time we make something new for the next game, we get more excited about how it's building up. So yeah, yeah. Have a good night, and the usual like, comment, subscribe, and things like that.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Safe travels.
Bye bye.